Welcome to Machine Tool Maniacs, the podcast where machining, fabrication, entrepreneurship, and bringing ideas to life collide. Around here, every story is a success story. I'm Matt, a second-generation manufacturer who's been in the shop since I was in diapers, learning the tools, the trade, and the people behind it all. Nearly everything in our daily lives is passed through a CNC machine. And we're here to spotlight the makers turning raw material into reality. Whether you're dreaming big or building bigger, this is your inside track to making it happen. Welcome back. Today we're heading up to northern Colorado to talk to John McNerney, the founder of Yukon Forge. John's journey is one that started out of necessity. When he couldn't afford the tools he needed as a farrier, he decided to build his own. What started as solving a personal problem has grown into a shop and a business he never could have imagined. In this episode, we'll dive into John's background, how he built his first products from scratch, and the challenges he's faced and learned machining and manufacturing on the fly. We'll also talk about where Yukon Forge is today, the tools and tech he's using, and his vision for the future. So whether you're a machinist, a maker, or just love a good entrepreneurial story, this one's going to inspire you. Welcome, John.
Oh, hey, happy to be here.
Yeah, so this story is really exciting for me because I tend to meet a lot of people, because I grew up in manufacturing. And I meet a lot of people that started out as machinists and then, either came up with their own product or, kind of worked their way, but they already knew how to machine. And your story is really cool to me because you kind of went the other way around. So tell us, give us an intro of you and what you do and how you got started.
Okay, so I'm John McNerney. I own Yukon Forge, and it's kind of how it sounds, forged, right? So all things forging and then tools for that, right? So I started off my career in trades. I was told that I needed to go to college and learn how to push paper. Well, I hated school and I sucked at it, and I liked horses, and I needed to make some money, so I went to horseshoeing school. And then I became a horseshoer. And I was in the northern Colorado area where I started my horseshoeing career. It was pretty competitive. And there were some tools that I needed. And I like making stuff, and I couldn't afford all the tools. So I started making them. Like I started making fullers and hand making tongs and hand making punches because the people that are around me competed. I guess I should back up a little bit. Horseshoeing, continuing education is either clinics or horseshoeing competitions.
Okay.
And they've been around forever. So I got addicted to horseshoeing competitions, and I needed the tools to compete, to get better, and to become a better horseshoer type of thing. So I started making them, and then I started selling the tools because I didn't have a whole lot of horses to shoe. And it just started going from there.
So are you actually hammering these, like forging them all the way?
So
wow.
Anvil forge. I had a gas forge. I had a little coke forge, which is just refined coal, and it would just heat, and it was just blacksmithing the tools.
Really?
Right? And my first shop, I rented almost like an outhouse size shop at a farm, and I set stuff up in there, had one light, and I would just forge the tools.
Man, and I mean, well, I wouldn't even, I guess YouTube. Where do you even start with something like that?
So when I started, there was no YouTube, right? So luckily, when I went to horseshoeing school, the associations were big. So you could go, like ours was the Rocky Mountain Farriers Association, which was connected to the American Farriers Association. So when I got out of horseshoeing school, the guy said, "Hey, dude, you need to get plugged into this, and so you can get certified, become a certified farrier, then a journeyman farrier, and then, well, how do you get better to pass the test? Well, the best way to do that is go to some of these horseshoeing competitions, and then you meet guys that are a lot better than you, and you say, "Hey, dude, can I come to your shop and learn?"
Hmm.
and they would always say yes because that's what people always would ask if they would come, but they would never follow up. But I followed up. So I would show up at these guys' houses and go shoe with them for a week. And then I would come home and try it out at home. And then I would go to another house and go work with him because I was like 97, I went to school.
Hmm.
So like I drove to Texas with the CD player, right? So I'm like, there was no YouTube, there was
Oh
no
yeah.
real internet. It was just trying to go to shops and learn.
So what is the advantage to forging your own tools? I mean, are they really that expensive, or is there an art to having them customized to the way you you do the job, or what? Why do you have to forge your own tools? I guess.
I don't think you had to, but I was just really into it. Like
Okay.
I like making stuff and I like shoeing horses. And we made the horseshoes. We literally made the shoes out of like bar steel, and there's a whole art to it. And I really got into that. But then you started nerding out on the tools, and so you would make your own tools to try to make it a little bit better and a little bit better. And then you would end up needing so many different tools. You spend a fortune buying tools, so you just started making them. And like I would make three, keep one, sell two. And
Hmm.
so then I could use a little bit more money to buy gas and some more steel and do that over and over again. So it was kind of necessity and kind of like I wanted my own tools.
What kind of steel are you using when you're making these? Do you buy something
So
new, or are
well,
you recycling stuff?
yeah. So at first we were like when I first got started, we just recycle stuff, right? But once we started getting into it a little bit more, then we started using shock resistant type steel. S7 works pretty good. H13. We're making the hammers. 4140 is a good steel for that. The hoof knives we did 440C stainless. A2 is what we use for driving hammers. So we use lots of different steels for this stuff.
That is so cool.
Oh, it's so much fun.
That is so cool. So, what led to you starting your own shop? I mean, so you said you were renting a barn,
Yeah.
and what what transpired after that? What was your next move?
So I started competing more and more, and I ended up making the American Farriers team, which is a really neat deal. The American Farriers Association has a since we there's competition and clinics that go around, they set up a team to kind of be like their flagship, and then those guys would go around and teach, but they would also compete in the U.S. and in Canada and in England and in Scotland.
Mhm.
So you got to go all over the world shoeing horses as a tradesman, right? And get to meet all these different people. Well, they had the magazines would showcase the horseshoers that were on the team quite a bit. And then
Okay.
I started Yukon Forge and started making tools. And then I was in the magazine more and more, and people would see me or see my tools, and and it just started growing more and more in that way. And we ended up buying our first house that had one of those detached garages that was
Yeah.
made in the 50s. And
Mhm.
it was a piece of crap. But I ended up moving a plasma table and a Bridgeport CNC, like a knee CNC that was the DOS programming.
Oh, yeah, okay. It's like a kinda like those easy tracks, or like a tree mill or something.
Yeah,
There's a bunch of brands that have those old, like, Analam controls I've seen. I've seen
right.
old Lagoons that have stuff like that on it, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I had to learn how to machine out of that. Well, at the time, Jim Poor was the man in the United States for custom tools, and he lived in Midland, Texas, and he sold me my first CNC machine to help me make fullers and help me make a few other tools, and that's kind of how I learned how to like just cut steel with it, make a program on Bobcat, load the program up. We started with the floppy drives, and that machine never got past the floppy drives.
Yeah, trust me. I've run machines with tape in my life, and
Oh, really?
oh,
Wow.
yeah. So,
That's pretty cool.
my dad owned a shop, so I worked over there for a lot of years. So,
Oh, okay. Very cool. Very cool.
So
So
you're
yeah,
running on a knee mill, like a knee mill with a control on it, a CNC control.
yeah.
And I assume it had no form of like tool changer on it, so you're probably just changing tools
No.
manually.
Yeah, it had no tool changer, it had no cabinet, like coolant would get everywhere, and it would break down all the time. And I was always fixing it. And then but we could cut the blades, the hoof knives. We would cut a pattern on the plasma machine, then put them on the knee mill, cut an angle to cut off material for the hoof knives, and then we'd make hoof knives out of that.
Hmm.
And yeah, we just started off with those two machines, and eventually the plasma machine we still have, but it's under tarp. I don't know if it'll ever run again, but the red mill finally died. We gave up on it, and then I started really kind of getting. We needed a bigger machine, like I needed a CNC center. That's kind of where we really got ramped up in our new place, where we ended up adding a lot more machines.
So are you still in this shop at your house, or have you transitioned into like a
Yeah.
commercial space?
So basically, in 2008, when the economy crashed, um, my mom had the foresight to see that the economy was so crappy that this is in our lifetime is probably the best time to buy something. So
Mhm.
we pulled our resources together and we bought a small farm in Milliken that had a 35 by 45 foot shop. And
Oh, sweet.
it was just a bare, like it was a shell. There wasn't anything in it. So
Mhm.
we ended up buying the place. The bank owned it. We took a risk on it and put a bunch of work into it, and then bought the place. Then moved the shop into like this shell, and then we kind of went from there. But like I had to insulate it. We had to bring in power. We had to like wire and like it was just a shell, and we
Mhm.
had to basically put everything. But I recognized not at that time, but later I recognized if I can make this run in my shop on the farm, I don't have to pay rent, right?
Huge. I
Oh,
think I cannot stress the probably the freedom that it gives you to not have to
huge.
worry about making that rent payment. And I know not everybody has that luxury, but I can only imagine how beneficial that is, especially when you're trying to start up your own thing.
Yeah. Because if when you're trying to start something up, you gotta keep the cost down. Like if you like jump into something where you're paying $3,000 a month rent, and then you buy a machine that's costing you $5,000 a month or something like that, it's like that's dude, you like at what point of that month does any of that money come back into your pocket? Because
Exactly.
that's just two things. We're not talking about all the consumables. We're not talking about electricity. We're not talking about like it just goes like steel. Like it just goes on and on, right? So
Mhm.
I really think like at one point, so you go ups and downs, right, in business. So you're all excited about something new. You're building it, and you're getting really excited, and then over time, if you let things, they'll get you down, right? And at one point, I thought owning a business was a license for people to charge you more money.
Yeah, there's probably some truth there. My wife owns a
You,
business and I see that
yeah.
every day.
So you got to be careful, right? And so if you can take any kind of advantage, use that advantage. So since I don't have rent, I use that money that I would pay rent and I just pile it back into the business so I can let that grow. Like, and it wasn't perfect. Like, maybe we had times in the month where I was like, because we run propane to heat the shop, and
Mhm.
we didn't have money to pay for the propane. So I'm like, hey, I'm getting there. Just put me. I'll just pay weekly. Yeah.
Jeez.
So I was negotiating with the propane guy to bring the propane in. So it wasn't like we had some struggles for sure.
You didn't have a wood burning stove in there? I feel like if I had a
At one
shop, I'd
point we
put a
did,
wood burning
yes.
stove in there. I'd be all about
Yeah.
it. Like, heck yeah, I'm
Oh,
gonna
right.
heat this thing for free.
You're right. Yeah. Yeah, we did that.
Nice. So you gave up on the knee mill. What came after?
So I made all kinds of horseshoe tools except for hammers. I really wanted to make hammers, right? So I needed something a little bit more. So I decided I wanted a CNC center, right? Because I had that email, I had to change every tool, and it was just like there's no way you can do any kind of production, right? And if I made hammers, I wanted to get into production. I want to see how many hammers I can make a month, how many could I sell a year, but I couldn't do that changing tools. So I started looking around, and I also had some good friends like Eddie at Nauvoo to give me advice. And he's like, dude, go get a Haas VF2 and go get a used one. And I'm like, how come? He's like, well, the older Haas's are like old Chevys. You can work on them.
Yeah.
So
Those and
that's what I did.
Fadals. I don't know if you know much about Fadals, but they're like that. And I swear, there's guys out there that they'll probably keep Fadals alive till the end of time. To be honest, they
Sure.
just keep rebuilding them.
Yeah, my buddy in Texas did that. He ended up with a couple of Fidels, and then he went to the Hawes, and he also told me to go look for a Haas. He said I like working on the Hawes more. So I'm like, all right. So
Yeah.
I found one. We moved it in. So we bought that and we started making the hammers with that. But I needed a lathe. I really needed a lathe to really like pop them out. And it was doing a two-step process. So we basically make a slug on the lathe, and then we take that slug and put it onto the mill, and then put all the features on the hammer on it, like do the eye, drill out the eye, and then do the features on the side or whatever that we need to do. But like the faces for the hammer, we can do on the lathe. And we ended up getting a Milltronics lathe from a guy that was getting a divorce, and he had it in his garage, and he sold it to me for like $5,000, like a
Jeez.
dirt. And this thing, it paid itself off in the first round of hammers.
And it has a turret, or is it just a single tool?
No, it's got a turret.
Wow.
It's,
That's
it's a
that's a good
seven.
deal on a lathe with a turret, man.
Oh man, yeah, this thing has been great. So
Huh.
it took some learning because I didn't have anybody that had worked with Miltronics except for the guy who sold it to me. So
Hmm.
I didn't know how to run it, and there was not a ton of stuff on YouTube on how to program it because it had that conversational part on it.
Yeah.
So I had to just figure it out. I got a couple of lessons from the guy, and then he quit answering my phone calls.
It's like, all right, bro, you've
Yeah,
you
you're on
you've
your
gotten
own.
your $5,000 worth.
Yep. So I'm like, all right. So, but over time, we just keep working on it, keep figuring it out. And the guys over at Miltronics, they're actually really nice. Like you call them and they'll talk to you.
Hmm.
So I mean, like we made it work, and it runs really good. It's got some quirks to it, but I think every machine's got a quirk to it. But
Every machine has its things. They
right,
all do, and I've been on tons of them. I really have,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I've said before that I just think they every machine has something to offer somebody. So I think they all have a place for something, just like cars, right? Some people need a Geo Metro, others need an old pickup truck. So
It's funny though.
that's what your current setup is then. Two Haas
No, so
mills.
now I've got so I ended up I wanted a second mill because I couldn't keep up making the support tools and the hammers. Uh I've never had good timing in my life, but when it came to hammers, it was good timing.
Hmm.
So when I came out with the hammers, the guys that make hammers now, they're older. So they're like 65, 70 that have tool businesses, and they're kind of like going like retire age, and they're kind of slowing down. And so it was perfect timing for me to ramp up. So we're selling a lot of hammers, but I had trouble finding time on the mill for the other tool. So like we do knives, and we do the fullers and the punches and tongs and stuff like that we put on there. So I started looking for a second mill, and I ended up finding a 96 VF3,
Mm,
and
okay.
we bought that for next to nothing, and we had to rebuild that. But the electronics were good, the spindle was good, and it actually moved good. It was just it was the ugliest thing you've ever seen. I think they killed somebody and let them decompose in the machine. It was
No,
that
man,
bad.
I've seen machines like that. Like you're like, how
Well,
did this happen?
but we got that running. So that one's our dedicated hammer mill. So that pretty much just makes hammers. And then we use the BF2 to do all support tools. And then we use the lathe to do all of the slugs. But then we just bought a new, well, it's not new to me. So we've got ourselves a DMG
CTX
yeah,
310.
CTX. Yeah.
Yep.
So we just got
So
that.
John and I actually we started talking because I used to run that machine like 15, 16 years ago. This exact machine. It came out of a medical device shop that I worked for once upon a time. So I have history, personal history with this machine. So it's a pretty nice machine. It's got Y axis and live tooling. It's got all the goodies.
Yeah, I think it's a good transition for me. I don't have to make money tomorrow. So I'm going to take my time, learn it, and figure it out a little bit slower than these other two, and really try to figure it out really well.
Yeah, go easy on it. It's probably a little more pricey if you bump it.
Yeah, yeah, no,
So,
right.
'cause,
We don't want to bump
whenever
it.
I'm doing a training, I always tell people, you just go as slow as you need to go to feel comfortable. Like I am not the type of person that's going to go in and push people to run it as fast as they can. So,
Sure.
um, a few questions. When you're making these parts, are you so you're forging them? Do you like just net forge it net shape and then machine the rest? What does this process look like?
No, so we have progressed over the years, right? So we used to forge everything, but you can't keep up with production by hand forging the tools, and you cannot. It's hard to have employees forging and doing like super high personal skill type stuff.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
So it's really hard. So we progressed. So we put it back to machining, and we machine. All the tools are machined except for the tongs.
Okay.
So the tongs go forging and then they get machined. So they kind of go into almost like a forging die, and then you have the junk on the side, and then you clean it up at the mill. So you can make the tongs like that. But so we do forge the tongs and then put them on the mill to clean up the edges. But everything else gets forged, or not forged, but machined first.
Out of solid billet.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So we buy a lot of 4140 round stock, the big like 16, 18-foot long sticks.
Yeah. Okay. So another question I have for you that a lot of people that are starting up their own shop, do you have three phase in in your building, or did you have to do some sort of phase converter?
We've done the phase converter.
Okay.
So I've got a 20 horse phase converter that runs all the machines. Now we don't run the CNC stuff when we're running like the power hammer or the press.
Mm,
And that's something that we kind of need to address. And our next move is to get a bigger, we're going to get a bigger, nicer phase converter for the CNC, and then take the forging machines off of that circuit and put it on a different circuit. We got tons of power, but we're going to end up with two different phase converters.
got it. Are you using like phase perfect, or are they
Yeah.
rotary phase converters, or?
No, we're just using a rotary phase converter.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah.
I've been kind of doing some research into those too because I'm thinking of, dreaming about putting a machine in my garage. So
Yeah.
it's one of those deals, right? It's like, oh, it's you buy the machine and now you got to buy a phase converter. Now you got to buy an air compressor, right? Then you got to buy tooling
Yeah.
and vices, and it's if you give a mouse a cookie type
Right.
situation.
No,
So
mhm.
So how have your skill sets, or how have you really developed your skill set on the machining side of things? Just mentorships? Where did you go take any classes on any of this?
Yeah, so I didn't take any classes. It was, I would say, 100% mentorship. So I kind of learned from my buddy, or at least probably more of a mentor in Texas, Jim Poor, and he started with making tools and ended up making parts for the oil field. in Midland, Odessa area, and did really well. And he figured things out. But when I was down at the shop and we bought the big red mill, there was a gentleman that was kind of working for him, kind of part time and coming in. And this guy had 30 years machining experience. And the guy knew machining. And he's like the dude when the first CNCs came out, he was punching the holes in the tape
Hmm.
type of guy and really knew
Okay.
machining. And he was kind of a mentor, right? So when I decided to set up my shop, I was like, I got to surround myself with people um, that understand machining a lot more than me. Because when I got the Haas, I didn't even know how to turn it on and off. Like, I get you push the button, but I thought, all right, well, maybe we have to power this down. You have to put it in a different parameter to turn it off or whatever. But I don't know. I was clueless. But I understood from the red mill messing things up and then learning and calling people and having some mentors back there. I had a kind of a basic idea of machining, but I really had to learn a lot more with the programming, the CAD, the feeds and speeds, and all kinds of different stuff at that point. But the mentorship was really my way of doing it.
So with the CAD, you mentioned that you started with BobCAD. Are you still using BobCAD?
Oh God, no. So
I don't even know if they're in business anymore.
I have no. They're the most aggressive CAD people, but I when we really got this shop set up, a buddy of mine turned me on to Fusion.
Yep.
Uh,
That's
yeah, Fusion 360, and I was blown away. Where you can buy a year subscription, and all the updates come with it. And like the power of it for me was 1,000 times more than anything I'd ever dealt with. So I had to slow down and learn how to like CAD draw on it, program on it, and post processors. And so there's a learning curve there, but I worked on it quite a bit.
I'm actually historically I've used Part Maker and Gibbs Cam, but I'm kind of on my own personal journey with a product I'm thinking about putting together, and I'm probably going to do the Fusion 360 route because it's all integrated, right? You can just like you
Right
said, you can draw it, you can do all the CAD work, and it's like $700 a year.
here, it's insane. Like
Yeah,
if you're a startup, when we were talking about leveraging, right? That is a huge leverage.
yeah, for
If
real.
you know, I mean, all the other stuff is insanely expensive compared to that.
Absolutely. How about for like your tooling? I guess it's probably just a lot of carbide tools. Do you
Yeah.
tend to favor the higher end tooling, or do you stick with kind of the more basic budget friendly stuff when it comes to your tooling, your cutting?
Yeah, so we kind of stick to the budget friendly stuff, but we've kind of started experimented a little bit. I found out that Ingersoll has a rep just in the next neighborhood,
Okay.
and that guy has been the most valuable. So I'll back up. I got a story. So Jim Porter told me he's like, pay attention to your rep, your sales rep, and I'm like, okay. And he's like, most of these machinists are old grumpy SOBs, and anybody that comes in, they just run them out. And he's like, I got a job working part time for a guy, and then we're machining some parts, and he was trying to drill holes. And he's like, long story short, the rep guy had a tool that he could sell me that I could quadruple my hole drilling for such and such price. And he knew the feeds and speeds. I bought the tool and we got working that next day and I got the job. And so when I was at his shop, I saw him drill a hole, and this all started from him drilling a hole in a hammer. And I was blown away how fast that machine just popped out a hole out of 2-inch round 4140. I was like, holy crap, what happened?
Yeah.
And so he told me that story. So when I got home, I called the rep. I'm like, Eddie told me, he says, the Ingersoll guy is just down and call him. I called him. I said, hey, come to my shop. Came to my shop. He showed me the feeds and speeds. He sold me the thing. And he even let me set it up and run it while he was there. And the deal was if I wrecked it, they would just give me a new one.
Yeah.
So this dude, oh my gosh. So that was like a huge eye opener. Listen to your rep, right? So we started buying Ingersoll because of the service that the guy gave me. So anything that we're doing like nice, I just go to Ingersoll. All the rough stuff where I'm kind of testing things out, I just go budget friendly.
There is a lot of value in that story. I've said this myself before, and personally, I do it. Like, I'm an applications engineer. I don't really know much about tooling. Like, I know the basics, but at the end of the day, I don't do tooling. We don't, the company I work for doesn't sell tooling, right? So anytime I'm working on a project, I call the sales rep for, I have a couple I trust, and I say, hey, I got this project. Get in here. Tell me what I need. And they're going to help you out. Like, they're going to give, I mean, yes, they want to sell something, but they also want to
Right.
solve your problem, right? And solving your problem means that they get to sell something. So I
Yeah.
know everybody wants to hate on sales guys and say, oh, get out of here. You don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. But lean into them, use them, make them do your work for you. Just say, hey, here's my drawing. You tell me what tools I need. You figure it out. I'll go do something else, you know? So,
Yeah.
and they'll do it. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So like all of our stuff, all of our lathe tools, they quadrupled our production. Like just showing us how to use the tool correct. It
Yeah,
was
that's
crazy.
awesome.
Yeah, it's been great.
Well, especially when you're cutting hard materials like you are, and I can see the value of getting tools that you get a little more life out of. You can push a little bit harder and further. So
I went from taking a half hour to drill the hole to 30 seconds.
that's okay. Yeah, there's no disputing that. There's no
Yeah,
dispute.
no, it worked out.
Any unexpected challenges that you've run into, like challenges that you want to share that you didn't even think were going to be a challenge on this
Yeah,
journey?
I would, yep. So I think the biggest challenge that I found, and I think this happens a lot to people starting up, is you got to watch out for the people that want to just charge you a ton of money, right? They see you coming, they think you don't know any better, and they just go charging you a ton of money. I've said it before, like you own a business, and it's just like having a license for people to charge you money, but you got to slow down a little bit and think about what money's coming in. Do you have that money for that, and is it the best use of that resource? Right, money is just a resource. um so that was my biggest thing, is because I would take the first bid and I would almost go broke, where if I took the time to get two or three bids, and then sleep on it, I could usually do at least twice as good as I got on the first bid, or the first guy that thought I was a sucker coming down the pike.
Hmm.
So that was a huge thing. The second thing was basically starting from scratch and use machines, and they would break down. And I would be so angry that I was spending more time fixing machines than I was making tools, that I got depressed on it. Where if I took a different perspective to look at it, not only, yes, I'm fixing the machine, but I'm learning more and more and more about the process, and I'm becoming more of an expert of my own shop. And then I wouldn't have to rely on people to come fix stuff, that I could fix stuff myself, and I become more independent. And
Yeah.
that was a mindset that I had to change. Those were two of the big things. And then selling the product,
Yes,
right?
which we're gonna cover in depth
Yeah.
couple in a little bit here, because that's one I really want to hammer home for people, especially for anybody who wants to get into doing their own product. And so, do you have any additional lessons about bridging the gap? Really, what you do, you're a craftsman. I'm sure there's a struggle. You want to produce these things as quickly as possible so you can sell them and make money and be a successful businessman, but you don't want to lose that craftsmanship aspect. So, what have you done personally to maintain that feeling of being a craftsman?
Okay, so I would tell anybody that's I guess I would time out a little bit. Anybody getting into business on your own, where you're making your own product,
Yeah.
the money is secondary. Like the craftsmanship is primary,
Yes. Yes.
right?
I like that.
So I learned that in horseshoeing. So I wanted to make the most amount of money per horse I shot because it's a difficult job and you only have so many horses in your bike. So I worked really hard to become the best horseshoer that I could be to command the wages that I wanted, right? But I fell into doing a really good job. And then the money came secondary because the clients really wanted me on their horses. And that works, I think, in all trades. So when it comes to making a hammer, I want that hammer to be the nicest hammer that I can make. So the craftsmanship in the hammer is more important than how many hammers I make that month, or tongs, or fullers, or whatever. And if I get bogged down and or people are like, where are my tools? I'm like, we need to get this order filled. I think that's a good thing because you have that demand. Obviously, you want to put people off to the point where they go somewhere else. But if your craftsmanship is so good that you're in demand, you're winning, and
Yeah.
then money will follow.
I think there's a lot of value there for sure. How do you maintain that perspective? Because I could see it getting difficult to hold that line sometimes, right? Like, oh man,
Yeah.
I don't know if I could just squeeze these out a little bit faster. How do you personally keep yourself from falling into that trap?
So we have some people working in the shop now. So I have some part-time guys, and we go at it as a team base, right? And so what our goal, like, obviously we want to make as many tools as we can to be able to pay the bills and to make the money, but more importantly, our tools, we want to have added value.
Mhm.
So because our advantage is that we are making the tool and we are selling the tool. It's our business, our design, our machines making the tools, and us selling the tools out. So we've cut out a bunch of middlemen. So it's not like a business we've got a part in mind. We'll call somebody else to make it. And then that takes a big chunk out of the profit. Then we have to call somebody to sell the part for us. That takes a chunk out of it. We're kind of like, we cut all that out. And so our profit margin is much bigger. And so we can focus on making that part higher quality.
That's good. I like that. That actually segues perfectly into my next question was, and you already answered it. I was going to ask if you had any employees. Sounds like you do. On that note, what is your approach to creating a good culture in your business?
Okay. So this is the most important part of the whole deal is if we're going to make a good tools, everybody's got to be, they got to be, have a buy-in, right?
Yeah.
They got to buy into the business. So I view my employees as more important than the machines. They are the most important part of getting tools out. So I try to do quite a few things. This all goes back to when I was 18 years old and I was working at a horse barn and I was shoveling stalls, mucking out manure, and exercise riding horses. And they took us out to ice cream one day. They said, "You got to go to this ice cream shop. This is the best ice cream shop in the world." And we're in Oregon. And we go down to this ice cream shop, and it's just a Baskin and Robbins. It's the cleanest thing you ever saw in your life. The employees were the happiest people that you ever saw,
That's
and the
Baskin Robbins.
service, yeah, it was just a Baskin and Robbins. It was the coolest place I'd ever been in. And they were friends. The guy I worked for, or the family I worked for, they were friends with the people that own the thing. And they said, well, their secret is that they have a lot of value into their employees. And so much so that they go through high school working for this place and they go to college and they come back and they want to work for them again. They have a hard time getting rid of people. So they did a bunch of stuff to really value the employees. So that was my goal. So we start off every morning having a morning meeting. And
Okay.
so we start off super early. So I got in the summertime, we got a bunch of high school kids that help. And then I've got college age kids. We start off every morning early. So we start at 6 o'clock in the morning. Everybody shows up. We have a meeting. and I'll have some kind of either leadership lesson, or I'll have talking about what project we're working on, where we're going, where we're coming. And then everybody that's in the meeting has to bring something to the meeting. And I want to make sure that I know where his goals are and what his plans are, and that's important to me. Well, Wyatt, my oldest son, same thing. I want to know where he's coming, where he's going. We had a young man, Josiah. We have an older guy that does our wood products, and we we get a chance to know each other, and and they understand for me that I value them big time, and it lets us wake up, right? So we're drinking coffee, we're laughing, we're talking about what we did yesterday, where we're going tomorrow, what plans that we have. We kind of get through all that, and then we go and we spend about 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes cleaning. And because I don't want anybody turning on any machines when they're dead asleep. They need to
Yeah.
wake up. So part of it's waking up, part of it's connecting, and then another part is cleaning up. We're taking pride of our area, right? And so we're picking up our tools, we're doing all that type of stuff. And then that allows people kind of get going, get their juices flowing, their area's clean, so they have pride in that. They feel good. And then at 2 o'clock, when we're done with our day, they can stop what they're doing and leave. Even if to the point, if the machine's halfway through a program, I'll stop the program after they're done. So it's key with the younger guys, because at 2 o'clock they're done. They put in their 8 hours a day, and they're able to go do the rest of the day. At 2 o'clock, you can do a bunch of stuff as a young man,
Oh
or
yeah.
whatever. So they have a day where they have the rest of the day they can go do something, and then we start the thing, the next morning. But I also make sure that I give them sweatshirts, I give them hats, I give them movie tickets. I do stuff like that so they know that they're valued, right?
Got it.
And
Okay.
then if we have we do stuff like, if we have an accident or if something gets wrecked, we call that falling forward, right? We have an opportunity to learn. And we also do the golden chain. So we've got this big golden chain with an MVP on it. And if you make a bonehead mistake or something in the morning meeting, you're gonna get the golden chain, and we all get to laugh about it. And
Got it.
then
Okay.
and I've won the golden chain more than anybody else, and I
So
own up to it.
you're
So,
right
and
in
that's a
there.
big
You're
part
right
of it.
in the weeds with them. So
Yep. So we try to have a community and a culture where we value the employee the most, and we care about where they're coming, where they're going, and if they're comfortable. Like, say Kai wanted to learn how to weld. Well, we had a product that we're after we machined it, we welded. So perfect. He gets to learn how to weld. So we've got lots of examples of that, but it's really important that I buy into the employees, and it makes it easier for them to buy into the business.
everybody wants to point at today's youth and say, "Oh, they're lazy. They're not interested." And it's a lot of it does have to do with the approach. It really does. And if you
Yes,
come at, you have to
100%.
think about how you come come to them and try to get them interested. If you just feed them the same old, when I was your age, I blah blah blah, they're just gonna shut it down. So it really is about the approach. And I've been to shops where almost everybody in the shop was like 30 years old or less, and the shop just functions and it works great. And it's like, why is it working here? But everybody else is saying this doesn't work. So it's
Leadership.
possible.
It's leadership. It's 100%. Like this summer, we did a leadership class in our meeting, and luckily, I've done some law enforcement stuff. So the Band of Brothers has a sergeant, or sorry, Lieutenant Winters. When after that deal was done, he set up a leadership course, and one of the classes that he did is the 10 things that take no talent. And so we did the 10 things that don't take talent here in the shop. And then the guys learned about it. But that's one of the things that we did to buy into them, right? So we taught about that, and they really bought into it, and so that was one of the things that we got to do. But it's the approach. We taught them leadership, and they're out there showing me leadership every day. Like I don't have to be just the leader, but they're leading, which is
Yeah.
really cool.
This is the subject that I am really curious about. And it sounds like you have a lot of insight. Marketing for your business. So where did you start when it came to marketing? I assume, I mean, obviously you had the beginning. You said you had people calling you and saying, "Hey, I really, I saw your hammer," but I'm sure only got you so far. So what did your marketing strategy look like? How did you get your name out in the world? What strategies are you using now?
Okay, so I'll start with when I started. So the only way to get stuff out when we started was magazines, right? Because everyone would get the Horseshoe magazine once a month,
Mhm.
or you'd have to go to the trade show and set up a booth or a contest or a clinic or whatever. And that was pretty much the only way you could get, or you could do flyers, right? You could do a thing in the mail and send flyers out to people.
Yeah.
Well, back in I think it was 2008, 10, my wife wanted family photos. And we're like, all right. So she found this lady, this gal came up, and she did phenomenal photos. And it was really, really neat. And I was like, man, you're really good at this. I'm like, hey, so are you pretty busy? And she's like, yeah, I'm pretty busy. And I'm like, well, how long have you been doing this? And she's like, well, probably a year and a half. I'm like, a year and a half, and you're really busy. She's like, I'm overly booked. And I'm like, how? And this was the time when Facebook started. And she goes, well, what I do is I asked the family if I can post a couple of photos that we took on Facebook. And she said, that's exploded. And he's like, everything's referrals, everything's off of Facebook. And that was when I was like, this is the gateway to marketing. If you have a part, if you have a product, you do not need magazines. You do not need um, a TV ad. You don't need the radio ad. You don't need any of the old legacy type stuff to get your stuff out.
Yeah.
And social media, you can do it for free.
Yeah.
So,
So you were an early adopter of social media marketing then.
oh man, I tell you what, Uh, So we do Instagram and we do Facebook, and a lot of the old horseshoers do Facebook because they're the older generation, and Instagram is a little bit newer. And then we don't do TikTok, but we could. I know that we're not leveraging ourselves enough. If we went to TikTok, it would probably help us even.
I
But
highly
you could,
suggest TikTok. Actually,
yeah,
one thing I've discovered, it seems like the older generation skipped Instagram and a lot of them went straight to TikTok,
straight
oddly
to
enough. And
TikTok.
I don't even know how that worked out that way, but it seems like there's a lot of older folks on TikTok as well. It's
Yeah,
like, wait, why didn't you guys go to Instagram? It's like, no, no, we're not interested in Instagram. We just want TikTok or Facebook. So,
I gotcha. So so what we ended up doing is figuring out the algorithms. And since we're all addicted to our phones, that the phone figures out you're a horseshoer, or the phone figures out whatever product you're making, that phone's going to figure out whoever's going to be. If you're four-wheel drive nut, then the algorithm's already got the people figured out.
yeah, it
So
does.
yeah, so you can take advantage of that. So I went to start advertising my hammers, um, and I actually learned a little bit when I was on Forged and Fire. So I competed in that TV show Forged and Fire and on the
Really?
sword making. Yeah, I
Wow.
did. I ended up being on there like three different times and
That's
won at one
cool.
time. So that was a lot of fun.
That's
But
awesome.
one of the guys that I competed against was a master bladesmith that gave me big time insight. He said he built a website, he learned how to make knives, and then he learned how to take photos of the knives.
Hmm.
And he learned how to put emotion into his photos. And then he uses that in his website and then gets people hooked on the emotion from the photos to sell his knives. So he was a good horseshoer or a good knife maker, and then a good photographer. So I took social media, I took the best photos, and then I would post them almost every day. And then I started using reels and posting reels. And then I started doing like almost like character development. But this is all free. It's not free because it's time consuming, right?
Oh
You
yeah.
almost have but every time we post something, we'll sell something. Like it
Wow.
is amazing how well it goes. And I found out just because the algorithm has seen it. So and then we just do it more and more. And then we give away hammers at horseshoeing contests. So we make a lot of trophy hammers and we post those. And then the people that we're making the trophy hammers for will post them for us. So we're basically using the social media and people being addicted to phones, we're able to get our product in front of our buyers in a really niche market really quickly.
That's that's amazing. So are you taking these photos? I mean, your social media is incredible. Like you said,
Thanks.
you say you put emotion into the photos and you do. Even that you posted one the other day, laser marking something, and it was just the
Yeah.
way you shot it. It was so interesting just to watch it laser mark.
Try
How
to
did you develop
try to
that
change it
talent?
up. I don't know. I think just the craftsmanship, right? So like if you're a craftsman, you kind of have an eye, I think artistic eye, and you try to use that. So I was a horseshoer first, and then I'm a craftsman. I like making stuff, and so I try to give the perspective of the craftsman into his tool. Like if you made a part, like, check out my part, and you're like and you showing it off. Well, I try to have that attitude when I'm making posts, right?
Mm.
And then I'm a little older, so I like to have my dad joke type humor in anything that I would try to say or something, and just don't be apologetic about it. And I found that if you're just real and if you're trying to make it pretty, but you're trying to say, "Hey, check it out. I'm proud of it." And what do you think? I think it's a pretty good approach for getting people's attention.
At least from what I can see, you're doing amazing. Like your page is really
Thanks.
interesting. Who would have thought I would be, oh, these hammers are sweet. I could
Right
see.
there, hammers.
Right? But you truly put emotion into them, and you make them feel special. So, kudos to you, for sure.
We just try to put added value to the tool, right? So we try to make really high quality tools that is just there's like they look cool, they feel cool.
So, do you have any other recap, takeaways, lessons, knowledge you'd like to spread to anybody that's thinking about pursuing a journey like yours?
You can think about it for a long time, but everybody talks. Um, do something. Like put energy in, energy out. So I came to a realization that I don't have a lot of tools that I made that I didn't sell because I put a lot of, I don't know, they just sell, right? So I had something sell. So I'm like, well, I better get to work and get making more tools. And I think anybody thinking about like getting in and doing this, it is super well worth it. Yes, there's struggles. Yes, there's days where you're just putting one foot in front of the other, but I don't have a boss. I have flexibility. I have goals. I have dreams. I have ambitions. And every day I get to work towards that. And I get an opportunity to inspire the guys that are working for me and watch those guys grow and those guys become men and attack their dreams and become an example to other people. Which so I think if you're thinking about doing something, man, do it. It's okay if you fail. Like if you fail, you're gonna lose, you're gonna learn something and you can take that lesson and do something else. It's not the end of the world if you fail. It's just a stepping stone for success.
Well, go ahead and let the listeners know where they can find you, John. Give out your website, your Instagram, whatever you'd like to give out. So if somebody wants to reach out to you.
Yeah, so it's Yukon Forge on Facebook and Yukon Forge on Instagram. And then our website is yukonforge.com, where you can see all the tools. And there's links to our YouTube stuff and Forge and Fire and all of our tools and stuff like that. Yeah, come check us out. We'd love to show you what we got.
It's totally worth it, even if you're not a farrier. So, well, I'd like to thank you for joining the podcast today, John. It's been really insightful, and I appreciate your time.